this lesson, you'll be finding the circumference and area of circles. The circumference of a circle is the distance around a circle. The ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter, which is all the way across the circle going through the center, is always pi. Pi is an irrational number that goes on and on forever without repeating. Oftentimes, you are told to use 3.14 as an approximation for pi, but it's really 3.14159 and even more if I had time. The formula for finding the circumference of a circle is pi times diameter, or if you'd prefer, 2 pi r. R, remember, is the radius. It goes from the center of the circle to any point on the outside of the circle. And the diameter is all the way across the circle going through the center. In our first example, we're going to find the circumference of the circle, and we're going to round our answer to the nearest tenth. We're going to start out by first writing down the formula. Circumference equals pi d. Now, most of your calculators will have a pi key, and that's going to give you a closer answer to the actual circumference. However, on the MCAs, it's going to tell you to use 3.14 for pi, so that is what we're going to use on our homework is 3.14. So we're going to write circumference equals 3.14 times the diameter, and the diameter is the distance all the way across, so it's going to be times 9. Now we're going to go ahead and multiply that. You end up with 28.26, so to the nearest tenth, that's 28.3, and it's going to be in inches. Now that is just an approximation for the circumference. Occasionally you might be asked to find the exact circumference. The only way you can find the exact circumference is to leave pi in your answer. For example, circumference equals pi times diameter, and then the circumference is going to equal pi times 9. And pi times 9, rather than using the pi key or 3.14 for pi, we're going to go ahead and just write the circumference as 9 pi. This is the exact answer. It's 9 pi inches. This is what you're going to be asked to do on your classwork, but I wanted to share this with you so you understand how you can go about showing the exact answer for the circumference. Next example, circumference equals pi d again is the formula. And then we're going to use 3.14 for pi. And then this time, since the radius is 7.2, the diameter is going to be double that. It's going to be 14.4. So 3.14 times 14.4. The circumference is 45.216, so to the nearest tenth is 45.2. 45 and 2/10 centimeters. You may want to pause the video and try the next one on your own. Remember, circumference equals pi d. So circumference equals 3.14 times the diameter, which is all the way across the circle, and that is 6. So 3.14 times 6, that's 18.84, so to the nearest tenth, 18.8 feet. Next up, we're going to find the area. The area of a circle is equal to pi r squared, or pi times the radius squared. So if we want to find the area of this circle right here, we're going to start out by writing the formula. Area equals pi r squared. Now we're going to write area equals, we're going to use 3.14 for pi, times the radius, and the radius is from the center to the outside, so that's going to be 8 squared. So 3.14 times 8, or 3.14 times 8 squared. That's 200.96. 200.96 rounded to the nearest tenth. Since this number after the tens place is a 6, we're going to round up. So this is going to have to actually be bumped up to 201.0. 201.0, and then the label will be in kilometers squared, because area is always in square units. It's the space inside the figure. Now, if we wanted to write this one as the exact answer, the area would be equal to pi times the radius squared. And the radius squared is going to be 8 squared, which is 64. And 64 times pi, it's just 64 pi. So the exact answer, if you were ever asked for that, is 64 pi kilometers squared. All right, let's go ahead and try the next one. Again, write down the formula. Area equals pi r squared. Area equals 3.14 times, now the radius is only halfway across, so if the whole way across is 15, halfway is going to be 7.5. So 3.14 times 7.5 squared. So let's go ahead and calculate that. 3.14 times 7.5 squared. That's going to be 176.625, so 176.6 feet squared. You may want to pause the video and try the next one on your own. Area equals pi r squared. Area equals 3.14 times the radius squared, so times 11 squared. So now we're going to go ahead and calculate that. 3.14 times 11 squared. That's 379.94, or 379 and 9/10 to the nearest tenth inches squared. Our last example says, suppose you walk around the edge of the Circular Point State Park fountain and estimate its circumference to be 470 feet. Based on your estimate, what is the approximate diameter of the fountain? Well, since we walked around the fountain, we're talking about circumference. So we're going to write down the circumference formula. Circumference equals pi times diameter. And we know that the circumference is 470. So in place of C, I'm going to put 470. And we know that pi is about 3.14. And we don't know the diameter, so we're going to leave that as D. Now to solve this equation, you would divide both sides by 3.14. Now let's go ahead and calculate that. 470 divided by 3.14. And then to the nearest tenth, D is going to equal about 149.9 0.7 because it's 0.6815 and a whole bunch of numbers. So 149.7 is the nearest tenth. 149.7, and it's going to be in feet. This is not going to be feet squared or anything like that because we're just looking for the diameter, which is the distance across. One way you can check your answer on a problem like this is you could plug this back into the formula or back into your original problem here, and you could say 3.14 times 149.7, and it should work out to be very close to 470. It won't work out to be exactly that because this is a rounded number, but it should get very close. You may want to pause the video and try the last one on your own. It says the catalog states that a circular area rug covers 19.5 square feet. What is the approximate diameter of the rug? Well, this time we're talking about the area because it covers that many square feet. So we're going to write area equals pi r squared. And then since we know the area is 19.5, we're going to put that in place of a. And then we're going to put 3.14 in place of pi. And we don't know what the radius is, so we're going to say r squared. Now to get r by itself, we're going to undo what's been done to it. We're going to first divide by 3.14 on both sides. So 19.5 divided by 3.14. That's going to be about 6.2. So we're saying r squared equals about 6.2. Now to undo squaring, you do what's called taking the square root. The square root of both sides, it looks like this. And you'll find the square root key above the squaring key on your calculator usually. So now we're going to go ahead and take the square root of 6 2/10. And you get r equals about 2.5. It's like 2.489 and so on. So about 2.5 when rounded to the nearest tenth. 2.5 feet. But we don't want to know the radius, we want to know the diameter. So if the radius is 2.5, the diameter is going to equal about 5 feet. Now if you wanted to check your answer, you could plug this back in and do 3.14 times 5 squared. Actually, I'm sorry, that didn't make any sense. We want to plug in 2.5 for r, not 5. This is our answer. Diameter is 5 feet, but we don't want to plug in 5. We want to plug in the 2.5. No wonder it wasn't making sense. 3.14 times 2.5 squared. And that works out to be 19.6 when I plug it back in, which is really close to 19.5. So we are pretty darn close to the answer. Again, it's not going to be exact because these were rounded.